the software that we use is not South African produced. So we are saying it's high time that we invest in those so that when that time comes, we're able to say, as South Africa, not only for economic benefit, but also we're able to add our own character and therefore can protect the space that we want to participate on. Key to that is building of the fourth industrial revolution infrastructure. You may have observed again, colleagues and South Africans, when the Department of Education introduced virtual learning. You may have observed when we called for those virtual meetings, be it at organizational level or the parties that we wanted to host, the virtual parties that people were hosting, including access to entertainment. That people, everybody, there was content that was availed because platforms were availed, but people could not connect because of poor connectivity and poor network. And therefore, we are saying, in order for South Africa to have a clear path and see the economic spin-off in the fourth industrial revolution, South Africa has to invest in the infrastructure that we are talking about. One of the key things that many people hate me for when I make reference to it is that we need to do a complete overhaul of the legislations that we have. I'm speaking to you now. You know that you knew my department as the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services then. And the regulator that we had then was focusing on a specific aspect. We had broadcasting on the other side. What we are seeing with the fourth industrial revolution technologies is the convergence of all these technologies to one platform. If I'm talking about a car now, a car is a data center. Because as you log into your car, in terms of the direction that you are going to, you're able to connect on your Wi-Fi, and therefore everything happens right in your own car. You're able to, at your own home, you're able, with security services in terms of the alarm systems, you're able to log and check in your Mthatha house what is happening. And these are the things that are enabled by the fourth industrial revolution technologies, which require more infrastructure, and therefore the legislation to make those accessible, to make those available to people is very important, but also to make sure that they can protect the rights of the citizens as they utilize those technologies. So it's important that we're going to be focused on that. That's what the 4IR report at the center has. Key to this, because people have said, we've seen new government, you've came up with great strategies, great plans, but when it comes to implementation, you're so bad. We have said ours is to make sure that we establish a project management office which is manned with experts from the different fields of the fourth industrial revolution in order to make sure that they will be the ones that monitor and coordinate the implementation of the work that we are talking about, to make sure that we're not just coming with rhetoric that will not find expression in changing people's lives. And key to that again is the collaboration, not only between the PMO and the stakeholders, but the collaboration amongst all bodies in South Africa, be it the judiciary, be it the legislative arm and government, to work together in appreciating the environment that we are operating in. As I spoke about the infrastructure, most of you have been reporting and hammering on this minister. She's been there. We've been talking spectrum. There's delays. Even when the minister came to explain that I have issued the policy and the policy direction, and according to the law, my role ends there. But people have continued to say, Minister, your job is not done because the spectrum is not licensed yet. As you may know, we had appointed the ICASA councillors, and proud now to announce, as you already know, that they have issued the ITA. Indeed, they had followed what the policy and the policy direction was saying in terms of ensuring that when they introduce the ITA, they go together, that of one which seeks to deal with the challenges of the past or the imbalances, to give an opportunity to new entrants and also those that would want to participate at service-based levels, as we're not only looking at infrastructure level only. So they've issued the ITA, both ITAs, that of the high demand spectrum on international mobile technologies, and of course that of WAN. For the first time, fellow South Africans, in the history of the democratic government, I'm not going to talk about what happened prior, we are seeing the regulator in the ITA being clear in terms of empowerment of black people in our country, which is something most people have hammered us for, to say it's been 26 years, but in this sector we have not seen transformation. Even after we issued the policy direction, people still were not confident that the authority will be able to come up with interventions that seek to say, indeed, it is high time that we change the status quo. It is high time that we empower people that must be empowered. And we really welcome that bold move by the authority, as I said, for the first time. Now the onus is up to the BBBE ICT Sector Council, which I'm also pleased to announce that they will be publishing their 4-year strategic plan in order to align with the changes indicated in the ITA, which is the invitation to apply. And of course, key to the ITA, if you may have missed it, is the fact that the authority goes to an extent of saying those that will be applying, they must make sure that they meet their level 1 BE status, and not only to meet once, but they are saying meet that level BBBE1 status for the duration of your license. That means if you have gotten spectrum and the license that you have is for 10 years for you to be operational, for 10 years we expect you to respect that the black people of this country need to be empowered, and you must remain on that level BE1 status. I won't be surprised if others would want to fight it, but I want to ascertain one thing, that will stand with the regulator on this one, because it is our responsibility to make sure that the policies and the regulations that we develop also serve the interest of the public. I made mention of the key 8 points that were identified, the recommendations from the Commission, which talk to human capacity development. I have said this, ladies and gentlemen, we announced the training of 50,000 young people on data science and related skills, on top of the 700 that will be training. And this we are doing simply because we want to showcase that although we are not a department responsible for training, we are a department that must make sure that people are digitally transformed, and therefore they're able to utilize the technologies, not only for consumption purposes, but also to generate an economic spin-off. That's why we showcased with that. That's the program that's driven by our training institute, NEMISA. And of course, the MICT CETA came on board to partner with ourselves. As I unpack again, on us coming up with efforts and initiatives to make sure that we lead this 4th industrial revolution in South Africa, we, through Cabinet, passed the Audio and Audiovisual Content Services Policy Framework, which has been gazetted, and it really received lots of feedback and positive responses by our people in order to make sure that our industries remain relevant in the sector, and therefore we're able, including the broadcasters that are here, they're able to utilize their platform to be OTTs, and therefore a clear regulation on that should be established. We are, of course, again, and under this, we had made sure that there's a driving force in terms of a clear path in saying what kind of skills, as we talk about the human capital development and the future of work in South Africa in the 4th Industrial Revolution. And key to that is understanding the terrain that you operate in, and that means doing an analysis of the skills gap that you have in the country, and that we have done. The Cabinet has approved the National Digital Skills Strategy, which will be enforced and implemented by all that are responsible to do so. Again, I am proud to announce that as we reported that we intend to establish a digital infrastructure company, a state digital infrastructure company, through the merger of BBI and Centec. The business case has been finalized. Now we are awaiting the processes, because unfortunately they do not end with us only in the department. We're awaiting cabinet processes and parliament processes where we need to make certain amendments in the legislations in order for that to be realized. And Centec has committed even last week in their AGM that was held. The second one, of course, was that we spoke about of restructuring USASA and USAF to be a digital development challenge fund. And again, the business case is about to be concluded. Consultations with Treasury are ongoing. And these colleagues and fellow South Africans, if you recall, we had said there's lots of young people who are innovating in South Africa, but they do not have access to funding. Hence, we said it's important as the department that we create that platform that they must therefore have access to this fund on the key things that we'll be talking about. We then came to the one that seems to be very sexy these days, that of unbundling the post bank and the post office, and to make sure that we corporatize the post bank. And again, I'm proud to stand here and report that the process of corporatizing the post bank is now at cabinet level. Following then, it will go to Parliament, but already the amendments that needed to be made on the money bill were made through the Portfolio Committee of Finance, led from a departmental side, Treasury, and it's just now to make amendment in terms of who must be the bank controlling company. As when we unbundled Post Bank and Post Office, it was realized that we cannot have the post office being the bank controlling company of Post Bank because of its financial status. And therefore, we had to take a decision that the department must therefore be the bank controlling company, which is why it requires the amendment. Progress, as I said, is now at cabinet level, and we will be dealing with the rest of the stuff that's coming out as I proceed with my presentation. We also made reference to the fact that if we are to drive digital transformation in South Africa, we've got to make sure that we establish a digital services agency. And we said amongst our portfolio, when we looked in the portfolio organizations that we have SETA, the state IT agency, which has been acting as a procurement agency. And we said it's high time that we focus on SETA being the digital services agency, and the department is working with SETA on making sure that the legislation indeed is finding expression and amended. Colleagues, I'm talking about reconfigurations, measures of entities in order to respond to the new mandate that President gave us. Key to that is to ensure that the process becomes a smooth process, that we do not wait for the entities to come and give reports to us quarterly as is required by the law. We've got to make sure that on a day-to-day basis, we understand where we need to intervene. We have since established a joint oversight forum to commence the implementation of the measures, which will be chaired from my office in the ministry, and the Director General of the department will be the Secretariat of this PMO, and the joint operation, the joint oversight forum will be comprised of the chairpersons of the entities of the affected institutions, the CEOs, the CFOs, and a number of board members that the boards will agree on. And this is meant to make sure that as we work towards the reconfiguration, it is smooth, whether you need the departmental intervention is done on time, and any other intervention that is required. I want to emphasize here, the Joint Oversight Forum will not replace the mandate of the boards that must provide oversight over governance of the entities they are responsible for. But they will be solely looking at the processes of the merger to make sure that indeed as we reconfigure, things are done properly and they will be done within the required time, as we understand that we have to respond to President Ramaphosa's call once more of building a leaner state, but that is capable. So it's meant to do that, not to replace anything that exists there. We have explained this to all the boards that are affected to say this is what is happening, and then awaiting them to submit the names. Key to this again, colleagues, I just want to give feedback to the work that has been done by the entities. We said we have 11 entities that under our portfolio, and I want to report that they've been doing so well. We want to commend not only the boards, but the management of those entities in ensuring that we even get audits that are qualified, but most importantly, that things are running smoothly, even though there's noise against them. Amongst these entities, that we really need to focus on as we commend and putting our trust in the management and the boards is SABC. That last time when we came here, we were talking about the issue of the funding of SABC, the bailout fund that we spoke about. Indeed, that has been issued. We do trust that the SABC management and the board will make sure that indeed SABC remains commercially viable and relevant. That's all we can do. We're not going to go and do work for SABC. SABC management, SABC board will play their own part. And as a shareholder representative, ours is to provide daily support to the areas they need support on, and that we commit to do. The second entity, again, that has been troubled, the post office, that many of you may have read in the media that at times they can pay salaries and everything else that has been written, whether true or false. I have brought people who must speak on their, not on their behalf, but people who are post office themselves. I am the minister for 11 entities, and I can't go on operations of what happens in the 11 entities. Mine is to provide a political direction and make sure that the policy creates an enabling environment for those that are mandated to lead these institutions. The post office, with its challenges, I'm pleased to report that we have appointed or replaced the board members that had resigned. Now we have a fully functional, except for one that we are awaiting the union to submit a name. But those that are expected from our side have been appointed, and we wish them all the best as they continue to drive or steer the ship that they have there. And we are also proud to say we have appointed the CFO as recommended by the Post Office Board. They did inform me that they are finalizing the recruitment of the CEO, which is their process, but the law stipulates that the minister has to approve. And when they make the submission, the minister will then consider that and look at everything that is supposed to be looked at in relation to the powers that the minister will have. We have also seen the need to work together in terms of addressing the challenges that we are faced with, not only as the department, but together with our portfolio organizations. You may have taken note that I said we have 11 entities that we are responsible for, and I've spoken of troubled ones. I mentioned 2. And then the third one that I'm about to mention is USASA, that is responsible for the procurement of the digital migration process that program that everybody talks about. And even there, we are pleased to report that work has commenced with Centec being appointed to be the project manager. And we are still sticking our guns to say the deadlines for digital migration, December 2021, we have to make sure that people are migrated for both those that we are subsidizing and those that we are not subsidizing. And we call upon the industry, as we have engaged with them and they've committed to supporting this call. Because we may be putting deadlines, but if the industry is not ready, then these deadlines will not be met. We do not produce IDTVs, neither do we produce installers, neither do we produce set-top boxes, but we make the policy and make sure that we avail resources, and that we commit to do. And therefore, this is an opportunity for our industry to make sure that as ICASA and SABS finalize their standards as requested by the industry, then they will fast-track the process of manufacturing these devices that must be available to our people. We are cognizant of the fact that any delay in the digital migration will cost us that we spoke about earlier in terms of the spectrum release. They go together. The spectrum that is being occupied by the broadcasters, the 700 megahertz, is what the industry, the telcos industry require in order to make sure that they can deploy the infrastructure that they need to deploy accordingly. So we are working hand in hand with our industry to say where can we partner and collaborate to make sure that digital migration becomes a success. I have been made aware that at USASA there are officials that have been suspended due to some investigations that were conducted by the agency in relation to corrupt activities that link to the set-top boxes. Details will be provided by the agency themselves. As I said, I don't get involved at operational levels, but I have been informed that, Minister, we did an audit, and in the audit there are mishaps, and we have acted accordingly. All we can say is to say we hope that you have a strong case as USASA, but also you will follow the legal processes in undertaking whatever decisions and actions that you have undertaken. Let me now turn briefly to addressing the report in the media recently about the affairs of the office that I'm requested to hold by the President. It is time that the public hears an honest account directly from myself. There has been several media allegations by the independent media, the independent newspaper, purporting, amongst other things, that I, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, interferes in the procurement decisions and processes of the South African Post Office, and that my family members also interfere in a similar manner at both the Post Office and USASA. The last one was saying Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams breaks the law again. Perhaps let me start by emphasizing the fact that I am committed and in full support of the role of media played during our dark days and into our new and young democracy. It was the heroic roles of men and women in the media who held the previous regime to account, and as a minister in a democratic government, I am more than willing and humbled to be held to account even more. However, with every crucial mandate comes serious responsibility and accountability. As such, our media houses and personnel alike always have a duty to act and report ethically and responsibly. And I know that I speak on behalf of all South Africans when I say I expect such high standards with nothing more or less. The importance of ethical journalism cannot be overstated. Although in the beginning I did not want to respond to all these allegations, given their frivolous and baseless nature, and generally due to my respect for the freedom of the press, it is now clear that the attack is not only malicious and meant to be defamatory, but the attacks are systematic. And it is for that reason that I have decided to take the opportunity of this platform to set the record straight. I wish to categorically state that all these allegations are baseless, unfounded, and devoid of any truth. The engagements that I had with the board of the Post Office were and continue to be within the parameters of the law. As it is common knowledge, the law requires me to engage the board of the Post Office and others that I'm responsible for on management issues from time to time. Maybe this is something that has never been seen. Therefore, in these engagements with the board, we have always discussed only issues within my legal purview, amongst them governance issues and other strategic matters on which the board requires my input and direction. I state firmly that in these engagements we have never discussed the appointment of service providers as reported by some of the media houses, of any other such defamatory issues as alleged by the said media house. Even more, it is disappointing that the said media house repeatedly and blatantly ignores and disregard our factual response to their allegations. For instance, on the two service providers I'm alleged to have imposed onto the Post Office and the Post Bank, and the two service providers allegedly being the Blue Label Telecoms and Dr. Ngaba's Africa COVID-19 platform, I have responded in writing on both of these allegations, and stated that at no stage did I ever seek to have either of these entities appointed by the Post Office or Post Bank. In addition, the Post Office, Post Bank, and the department have also responded in writing, independently of my office, refuting these allegations as false and without any merit whatsoever. But the media house decided to proceed with their unsubstantiated story nevertheless, clearly intended to distort my image to the public. I have asked the chairperson of the Post Office to be present here. I have also asked the Deputy Director General in the department responsible for international relations, whom were involved in the work that we are talking about, to talk to yourselves, because I am the one that is affected. You may think that I'm here to protect myself, but as I said earlier, I'm here to set the record straight. And they will speak to you directly, and they will respond to the questions that you will be asking. To demonstrate my clean conscience, as you have heard, I voluntarily appeared before the Integrity Commission of the governing party, which is the party that has deployed me to government. I don't want to conflating issues to say, why does she report about the ANC processes? I am a member of the ANC first. I go to parliament through the ticket of the ANC. I come to the executive as the deployee of the ANC. It therefore becomes very crucial for myself as the ANC deployee to make sure that at all times I hold the position that they have tasked me to hold, accountable so and responsible so. That is why I appeared, I requested to appear, and I hope they will announce their comments and observations of our interactions. As I'm speaking about this once more, I want to state to all of us, those that are seated at home and those that I'm with here, that it is important that if we want to expose the rot that is in our government and our deployees, we do so accordingly. Gunning for media headlines does not solve the problem of corruption. But us acting responsibly so, like patriotic citizens that we are supposed to be, is what will help us combat corruption in South Africa. That means if you have any evidence of Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams bringing a service provider and instructing any agency under the responsibility, under the portfolio that she's responsible for, go to the law enforcement agents. We shouldn't be gossiping about corruption that destroys the fiber of our society. Corruption that makes us not to be able to deliver on the commitments and the promises to our people. Corruption that is the one that causes all the havoc and anarchy whilst our people still go home hungry. If we are honest, as those that are responsible in the battle of ideas, we should make sure that we have written an article, indeed, correctly so, when we are given information. But in our investigation, let's follow it to the latter, that action is taken and people are exposed for who they are. It doesn't help fellow South Africans to behave like, the drive-through environment when you go and buy food at McDonald's. You don't check. All you do is to say, I want this burger with this and that. And then you drive because another one after you must come and buy. And then when you realize upon arrival at the place that you were going to, they did not put tomato sauce. They did not put the right chips that I ordered. And you only realize when you're at home, we shouldn't be behaving like that. Media and all the platforms that we have a serious responsibility in this country. That of educating our people, entertaining our people, and informing them, including instilling hope to the hopeless. And that's done by giving fair information and balanced. Not to take sides with Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. That's why I didn't come and defend myself. Because I said I'm the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. I have a responsibility to respect freedom of press. But where I see that it's really untoward, we have a responsibility to say, we call upon you, journalists and editors of the media houses, to act responsibly in the affairs of our country, in the interest of our ordinary people, not for Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. I always tell people that I work with that we're not here to make friends. We're not here to be liked, but we are here to serve the people of South Africa that have given us a mandate to go and make policies and legislations that can improve their lives, both socially and economically. And when we do this work that we do in our space, we should always have that at the back of our minds. That is why I'm encouraging all of you, those that are in the media space or in the communication space, to continue writing. But it is also important that you make sure that you provide facts. The fact that some of you do not subscribe to particular organizations that must hold them accountable does not give them the right to do as they please in destroying the moral fiber of journalism. 2 weeks ago, we delivered a podcast lecture on Robert Gesha. And we're talking about the values that he stood for. There's many journalists, as you know, that have done good work and are continuing to do work. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to talk against those that forget why are they in this business. It's okay to want to play a particular agenda, but don't forget the bigger agenda that yours is to educate, entertain, and inform. As you continue to broadcast, as you continue to write, let's make sure that we do good and we all remain responsible in the areas of responsibilities that we are given on. I thank you. I would invite the ADG to then invite the chairperson of Post Office, or we'll wait for your questions, but she's here. And as I said, we also have DDG Nonqobela Jordan Jan, who is the Deputy Director General that introduced the matter that now I'm accused of bringing in a service provider for a 2.2 billion. They don't even ask where does that money come from. They wrote stories that you don't have money, but in the same media they write that there's 2.2 billion tender. But nevertheless, the DDG that introduced the memo is also available virtually. She's here to explain and take whatever questions in relation to the two matters. And as I said, I've availed them here and brought them here because I want you to hear the truth from the people who are involved. Mine is the minister, which means I am the policy maker. I don't get involved in operations, whilst I'm given a responsibility to provide oversight over the 11 entities and the department that I spoke about, but I cannot go and replace the work of the people that are hired to do the work. Mine is to make sure that as we get feedback, the policy intent finds expression, and indeed our people's life are changed through the work that they're hired to do. Thank you so much. ADG, over to you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to allow questions from here, the journalists that are present in this room, and then I'll allow Mr. Mish Mulukeng to read out the questions that are coming from the WhatsApp line. Over to you. Please introduce yourself and which media house do you represent?
Stella from SABC TV News, Deputy Minister, and all the officials are here. I've got a few questions. One, you sounded a bit emotional there, saying the allegations against you being corrupt and allegedly interfering with procurement processes are baseless and frivolous. So do you believe this is part of a particular attack against you? Why do you think these allegations keep coming up against your name? Two, you mentioned that the SABC has received its funding. Are you happy with how it's handling its businesses so far? I know that there are reports that the public broadcaster, obviously, yourself as a shareholder, that it has to give to yourself. Are you happy with how SABC is handling things right now? What about the process that SABC announced to our staff earlier of possibly retrenching staff? Where do you stand on that at this point in time? And thirdly, you announced that your WhatsApp account was hacked and that confidential information was was possibly leaked. Is there any serious information that's now in the hands of the third parties who might be hacking your WhatsApp? Can you just give us some clarity as to what's going on with your WhatsApp? Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from here? Okay. Mish, do you have questions from your side?
Yes, we do have questions, Minister, and Ndabeni. Take this one.
Thank you, Minister and the acting DG and the acting chairperson of the board. We do have the two questions from the WhatsApp line. Evan Lee Morris from the Custom Media local media house in Devon, asking a questions. She has two questions. One is that what measures are being put in place to those with less access to technology don't get left behind, i.e. the rural areas. The second question is that when can we expect to see a reduction in the price of mobile data? If you allow me, Acting Director General, just to go to the questions of the Business Day, the political editor there says, Minister, you are in a legal battle with the former South African Post Office Board chairperson, Ms. Makubela, who is challenging her demotion from the position. She has made the same allegations of interference and abuse of power you have addressed today in court papers. Are you challenging this court application and her allegations, and have you filed any response yet? Ms. Makubela is still on SAPO board. Will she remain on the board despite these allegations she is making in the court application? That's the two questions that we have from the WhatsApp line, Minister.
All right, thank you very much. I'll invite Minister to come over. But just Minister, before Minister comes over and respond to the question, maybe just to clear some of the questions, Minister, on especially the SABC one on the bailout. I know Minister has delegated a team led by myself and DDG Shelembe to monitor how SABC utilizes the bailout of the 3.2 billion. That's the first thing. And then in this respect, we do give feedback to the SABC as to how they are utilizing the funds. The team comprises of ourselves. I think, Minister, you did allude to it even last year, comprises of the DCDT, National Treasury, and the SABC. So it's a high level as to how the amount is being spent and whether all the commitments that they were given to them on their obligations and conditions, they are meeting them. So in this respect, I just wanted to clear that, Minister, that because I know you've delegated it to us. So, Minister, I'll actually ask you to come to the podium and respond to the questions. And thank you very much.
Can I have the sanitizer, please? All right, colleagues, thank you for the questions. SABC says, I got emotional when I was talking to baseless accusations. Why do I think there are accusations? Why do I think there are accusations made against me? And why are they consistent? I think that's what you said. All right, to start with, I'm a politician, an activist, and a public figure. Therefore, there may be, as and when needs arise, there may be conflicts in how we do our work. But of course, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, like, I'm Stella Ndabeni at the end of the day. I've always been challenged and attacked. It's just that now it's exciting that it's in the media. So for me, those attacks are nothing new. It's something that I'm used to as a politician. All politicians will tell you. That's what we go through. So I see those as one of those. Whoever that is driving them, they must continue their work. I have no time to be focusing on that. That's why it has taken me this long to come to this platform. I have a serious responsibility to find expression to that President Ramaphosa gave me responsibility over, to make sure that I connect the unconnected people of South Africa, to make sure that the fourth industrial revolution that we are saying presents opportunity to people of South Africa, indeed it presents them with an opportunity and change how things have been done. If in the process of doing that, of making sure that we're trying to address the imbalances of the past, and we're trying to make sure that we accommodate the previously disadvantaged, I happen to offend any of those that may be offended, I apologize in advance. But to say you're still going to be offended, because mine is a commitment to ensuring that I empower the people of South Africa in the area that I'm deployed in by both my organization and President Ramaphosa. And I will not abandon that task. I owe it not only to my generation, but also to the people of South Africa and those that came before us, to make sure that the baton they handed over finds expression in ensuring that it delivers economic freedom for all, not for few. So that's my take. I don't know why they are attacking me. I'm not bothered much. It bothers me that they're misleading people. It bothers me that they're breaking the ethics of journalism. But it doesn't bother me as a person because, as I said, at the end of the day, I'm not here to be liked by anyone. In the work that I do, there are those that will like me. There are those that will dislike me. And I welcome all because it is my responsibility to serve both those that like me and those that hate me, as long as they hate me for the work that I'm doing. And as I said, I'm going to continue with the work that I'm asked to do. Am I happy with the SABC handling of funds? The ADG has responded to that. And then you further went to an extent of asking about the Section 189 that SABC introduced. We did issue a statement in relation to that. As any responsible government, it is our responsibility that we make sure that we avoid getting people out of jobs. That is why I said we may be doing things that have not been done to the extent that we're doing them as the department currently, to make sure that we're effective on oversight. And the reason for that is for us to be able to pick up on anything that may be harmful to the strategic intent that we want to achieve as government. And the first thing that we have to do as government is to create an enabling environment for the people of South Africa to thrive economically and otherwise. That means people must remain at jobs. Does it mean that we shouldn't act when there are wrongs that have been done in that process? We give those that are responsible to act on those. But all we are saying, you cannot sleep and wake up and you want to just retrench people. A clear plan, as we had said when I came to this portfolio in 2018, a clear plan is required. When we approved the SABC turnaround strategy, we were clear on what is referred to, what is it called, the staff optimization. And the processes that must be followed. Fortunately, I want to state here, as we engage all the stakeholders that are involved in this process, all of them do have an appreciation of where SABC is currently, do have an appreciation of the challenges that SABC has. But all of us agree there's a need to engage all of us when we take these decisions, so that we may try to find solutions where we can, and where we cannot, then we can engage with those that are affected on what processes and steps must be taken. That is where we stand. On the issue of the WhatsApp hack, I'm sure all of you have been waiting. I hear even on the WhatsApp groups, others were saying, hey, we hear the news, hey, we hear this and that. I know you may be disappointed. As the people in this platform, surely you would have seen if there was anything untoward. But of course, you will find naughty messages between myself and my husband in those WhatsApps, because we do get to communicate, and that you will get. But in terms of anything illegally, I doubt there will be any, unless you interpret me flirting with my husband as an illegal issue. And of course, those that are engaged within a professional environment, it will be me engaging with them on that professional environment, which is why I keep them, as you will see if you have access to them. And yes, this is something that we are saying we looking at everyone in terms of the security of information that we're talking about. We're warning everyone WhatsApp has this message that that we sign up for. That messages are encrypted from end to end, and therefore, if hacks happen, then we still have to engage with the platform owners to say where may be the gaps. Although we have a full appreciation that to hackers, this is a game. They will hack anything because it's about the game they play in terms of the software development and everything that they do. So to beat the other net, it makes sense for them. And therefore, that's why we always say the platform owners must always make sure that they look into the security features of the platforms that they provide to people. What measures have we put in place to ensure that those that don't have access to technology are not left behind? On the 8 recommendations that I mentioned, they also look at this. But of course, as the department, we've gone further than just create or developing policies. We have said it's high time that we lead by example, that even if it's at the educational sector, when we say education these days is offered on the online platforms, let's lead by example. That's why you've seen us providing laptops. That's why you've seen us talking to operators to zero rate the contents, amongst other things, because we want people to be exposed to these technologies. Because once people are exposed to technologies, they don't even have to wait for government. They know what to do, because it's about an enabling environment for them to derive economic spin-off on that we do. Right now, I spoke about the 50,000 that we'll be training. Part of that is to ensure, because not everyone, that's an online program, not everyone will have access to the data that, as you were saying, others, they were talking about data costs, and then access to the device itself. So the collaboration, and I want to thank the industry for this. Our industry has been so supportive, working hand in hand with the department and the ministry. The collaboration that we have had, it is the industry that provided the laptops to those students that we're talking about. It is the industry that said, Minister, we'll meet you halfway and zero rate the content. And we've partnered with other individuals that have also come on board to say, indeed, we really have to bridge the digital divide. I spoke earlier of the release of spectrum, the process that has started, and it is coupled with the broadband rollout that I spoke about earlier in terms of the infrastructure that I referred to. So all of these things are an ecosystem. It is not a one step that will make you be a digital citizen. It requires all the components to come together for one to be able to have access, because you can have access to technology, but if you don't know what to use or how to use it, then it's not of advantage. The legal battle with Ms. Makubela. I said earlier again in my presentation, I said anyone who suspects or who has evidence of any criminal activity, including undermining of the governance protocols, should report those to the law enforcement agencies if they require so. So Ms. Makubela has exercised her right by going to the courts, and indeed, we have filed a notice to defend. We have Advocate Battlander who's dealing with the matter. And as you know, in matters before the court, I cannot then go into details until we meet in court, and we will announce the results of that we're in court about. I think I have responded to all the questions that were sent to me. Mish?
Minister, there is one question from Sophie Mukwena, SABC. The question is as follows. COVID-19 has demonstrated that the world is connected and flow of information is key, but access to the internet is still a challenge. Data is way too expensive. How far is the process of making data affordable and internet access?
I guess this was the question that was asked before I responded to it. I made reference to the release of spectrum that will also help fast track the process of reducing the cost to communicate, which relates to data costs. I made mention of the fact that we also, from our side, trying to roll out broadband, which I'm pleased to report to you that the feasibility study that is being done by DBSA is about to be concluded. They said December, but the team informed me that by November they will have a clear way forward, and we will, as the department, be establishing a PMO looking at broadband, which is something, again, we're saying the rollout of broadband or connecting the unconnected is not a sole function for the state or for government. So we will be working hand in hand with the private sector to make sure that we connect the unconnected. And key to the release of the spectrum, if you look into the ITA, the conditions and everything, when we introduced the WAN, we did talk about the areas where we think there will be market that is created, but most importantly, we see it as a vehicle that will help us bridge the digital divide that we are talking about. My boss, President Ramaphosa, has made it so clear that he doesn't want to see inequalities during his time of leadership in South Africa. Inequalities, that would mean that because you are in the suburbia, therefore you have better connectivity. And when I'm seated at Kunu, Sakela at home, I have poor connectivity, because when we deploy the services that we'll be deploying at government level, they will be the same service. We're not going to say we're then deploying virtual classrooms for education, and then we say, no, now you must use this platform. It must be different. It has to be the same platform. If you were saying, as I said earlier, we're digitizing the postal services in post office in order to position it to be an e-commerce platform, it means the beneficiaries of the social grants, wherever they are, they should be able to access whatever technology in terms of them getting access to the postal services that will be digitized. And that's the commitment that we have made. And I said I have no choice but to deliver on that. Otherwise, I don't want to displease my boss and not implement that. It's not something that's going to be done by me as an individual. It is something that will be done by the collective, as I said, the collaboration that we have as the department with our industry. I want to emphasize this. It's really helpful. We've seen it during the COVID period. Not much resources were spent from the department, but it is the industry itself that drove the process. And I said, I want to applaud them for that support that they've given us, and they continue to give us. Even on the broadband rollout, we are aware that the minute they get the spectrum, they will attend to the things that we've engaged on that are priorities. And key to that is to make sure that data is not only accessible, but also affordable to the millions of South Africans. Thank you, ADJ.
Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams addressing the media there on a range of issues, from allegations of corruption on her part by the independent media group, lambasting them, saying she believes that there's an agenda against her because she's an activist and a politician, speaking about the fact that she says she never advised any board to appoint certain service providers. My apology. She also spoke about the media reports as being baseless and frivolous. We know yesterday there was communique from the Department of Communications saying that her WhatsApp had been hacked and leaked. She addressed that in the question and answer service to two journalists there, saying that there was nothing illegal in those WhatsApp hacks. It was, and I quote, naughty messages to my husband and flirting, and then communicating with professional people in a professional manner. She says there was nothing illegal there. She also spoke about the SABC, Sipho Stearman from the SABC asking her if she's happy with the progress that's been made in terms of the funds that have been allocated to the public broadcaster, and her DDG saying that they appreciate the challenges that the SABC is facing. They're offering support together with National Treasury and a team of people who broadly look over the SABC and trying to ensure that things are okay. Sipho Stearman also asking about the Section 189 process at the public broadcaster, and the minister saying that there are government who cares and they do not want to see people out of jobs. But if it comes to that, I believe that she said that would happen. So that was that briefing that took place. Now it is still ongoing. We apologize for the lack of sound. A little bit earlier, before the question and answer session, she spoke about implementing resolutions as being important. Also spoke about transformation in the ICT space and saying that it was important to empower black people in that space. Also speaking about, although the department is not a training department, There are 50,000 young people who are allegedly going to be trained in data science. Also speaking about the importance of infrastructure investment. We know that President Cyril Ramaphosa is also looking at investment generally as a way of trying to get South Africa out of those economic challenges that they're facing as a result of the recession, as well as the coronavirus pandemic. Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams also speaking about legislation around the fourth industrial revolution and how that's important to citizens. So that's the briefing that took place there in Pretoria. We'll give you a more succinct update of that a little bit later on. It's time for a short break.